Hi, good afternoon. This is 30 frames a second for those of you who already know, and I'm Nat Wood. As you know, today is election day, and there's a lot of people out running for office, so if you have not voted yet, after the show is over, then you can go out and cast your vote. And make sure you look at all the parties. We have a few independent parties who are running for offices, citywide and borough-wide, that may reflect your needs and your interests. So make sure that you carefully look over the ballots. With that being said, there are a number of issues and maladies that face our communities both right here in New York City, our communities within the states, our communities within the globe, and not all of those issues can be dealt with adequately through the political system. Sometimes it takes lions to deal with petulant lions. One of the issues that reflect a tremendous need that we have to address in our own communities is the issues of violence. And if you've paid any attention to any sort of media, you know that we have very horrible issues with violence, both against us from other places, i.e. the police departments, the police states, and within our own communities. We have issues of a lot of us, you know, shooting each other. And we're gonna deal with that with two of my heroes, Bashir and the incomparable Baba Zayid Muhammad. And we're going to talk about those issues, what they have coming. We're going to get in a little bit into their bios, which is fascinating. I expect a really good show with these two brothers. With that being said, if you guys back there have my opening cued, you can run that, and when that's over with, we'll be back, and I'll be talking to Bashir and Baba Zayid. Where the victim is now the perpetrator and the perpetrator is now the victim. And that just drives me crazy. Oh, hi, we're back. As I said before, I'll be speaking to Brother Bashir and Baba Zayid Muhammad from, this time they're representing one of the many organizations that they are affiliated with in our communities, the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition. We had some people on from the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition a few weeks ago. And just to reiterate the gravity of the issue at hand, it's interesting that right after we did the show and they left, there were a number of people who were murdered in Newark, including a grandmother, a 54-year-old grandmother, that later on that very day that we did the show. We have some things coming up with these brothers, and I'm going to talk to these brothers, but let me introduce them to you. On my far is Brother Bashir. How you doing, brother? Welcome to 30 Frames a Second.
Oh, brother, I'm honored to be here, but in the spirit of the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, Stop the Violence, Black Power, All Power to the People, Hotep, Peace, Peace in the Streets.
Thank you, brother.
All right.
Thank you, brother. That's what we're shooting for.
No doubt.
And Baba Zayid.
Always humble, always honored. Black power and all power to the people.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. First of all, everybody who knows anything about 30 frames a second,
right,
if you've been watching it any time, you've had the privilege of speaking to Baba Zayid Muhammad. But Brother Bashir, this is his first time here, and I want to get a little bit into your background because you are an amazing brother, but your life story is one where I don't think early on, according to the bio I read of you, you didn't even realize your greatness and your potential until two brothers pointed it out to you.
Right.
And I think that we suffer from that a lot. We don't know. Everybody knows how great we are except us. We're the only ones who don't believe it. So enlighten us on your biography. What took you from there to here? I think I read somewhere that you also had an issue with gun violence that plagued you. So bring us up to speed on that.
I mean, in summation, I was like many black people in this country, misguided, miseducated, had no connection to my people, my culture, my community, until really when I got to college. When I spent some years in junior college, Essex County College. Big up to Essex County College, because from there I went to Seton Hall, and then I did my graduate studies at Columbia University. But what connected me was a professor by the name of Dr.
Yeah, I don't want you to go from Essex County to Seton Hall without, letting the people know that when you first went to college, you were not the A+ student that you ended up being.
No doubt. I was pretty much a D student, D student, barely got out of high school, didn't take education seriously. Somewhere between I would say 6th grade, and from 6th grade to 12th, I got lost. School was not relevant to me at all. All right, and I just did it out of respect for my parents. They said go to school. I said no problem, but I really did the bare minimum. Bare minimum. Barely got out of Newark Tech High School. Big up to Newark Tech High School. Great school now, but when I was there, I barely got out, and ended up at Essex County College, because I didn't have the skills, I didn't have the academic talent to go from high school into a traditional 4-year school. And I was athletics. I was a pretty decent track star, and the coach at Essex County College offered me a scholarship there, as well as other schools, but I couldn't go to those traditional schools. I had to go to Essex County to increase build on my academic skills. But while I was even there, when I got to Essex County, still wasn't taking school seriously until I met two brothers, Dr. Linworth Gunther, who was a professor of history there, and a brother named Halim. We all call him Halim, but his brother's name is Ed Riley. And those two brothers pricked my conscience to the point where I began to take, education seriously, but it began with black history. And Brother Ed, at the time, was a member of the Nation of Islam. And I used to see this brother every day in the school cafeteria, every single day with white shirt on, black pants, reading the newspaper, like 5 or 6 newspapers. And I would say to my friends, man, this N-word, I used to use the N-word all the time. This N-word, read the paper every day. He don't just read the sports section. He reads the front page of every newspaper. I said, I'm gonna go over there and ask this dude what he's about. So I went over to the brother and I said, man, what's up with you? I said N-word. I see you reading the front page of the papers every single day, and you throw away the sports section, but you read the front page. And he said, brother, he called me brother. He said, brother, if you want to hide something from the black man, you put it in a newspaper or a book. And I said, well, who said that? He said, Elijah Muhammad. And I said, who is Elijah Muhammad? He said, you never heard of Elijah Muhammad? I said, no. I said, no, I never heard of Elijah Muhammad. He said, you ever heard of Malcolm X, his student? I said, no, never heard of none of them. Wow. All right. Now this is. I went to school from 70. I entered kindergarten from 1975. Wow. 1987. I graduated high school. Never heard of Malcolm. Never heard of Elijah Muhammad. Never heard of the original Black Panther Party. Never heard of Marcus Garvey. Nobody.
Wow. Wow.
This is East Orange, Newark, New Jersey. All right. Until I met that brother. And then I took a course, a Black Studies course or Africana Studies course with Dr. Gunther, and I still was kind of struggling with it, And I was in there. It was a girl I was chasing, and she took the course. She was beautiful, beautiful sister, Haitian sister too, beautiful sister. All that didn't mean nothing to me. I just saw beauty, and I wanted to get with the sister. But while I was there, Dr. Gunther would tell me about books, and one of the books he told me to read was The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. And he asked me, has he ever heard of Frederick Douglass? I said, no, sir. I said, who is he? And he said that he was a famous abolitionist. And I said, all right, I said, give me the book, I'll read it. And when for some reason, one night I opened the book up and I read it. And I read it all night from cover to cover. But the chapter that really got to me was chapter 3. I believe it was chapter 3 when Frederick's slave owner, Mr. Old, had discovered that he was, he was learning.
You went to grammar school in New Jersey?
I went to grammar school.
You went to high school in New Jersey?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
had
sir.
never heard of Elijah Muhammad,
No, sir.
Malcolm X,
No.
or Frederick Douglass?
No. No, none whatsoever.
Wow, wow. I mean, and I'm learning something now. I did not really appreciate the gravity of the situation until you just said what you said.
Yeah, it's incredible, but unfortunately, there's still black children today going through the same experiences. Whether it's charter schools, public schools, private schools, they're not learning anything about their history and their culture. All right, so they have no connection to themselves, their people, nothing. All right, I'm a history teacher in the public schools now, and when my students come to me, they say that when I talk about Marcus Garvey or the Black Panthers or Malcolm, they said, I never heard of these people. And this is still happening right now, 2013, in America.
The people you just referred to, Frederick Douglass,
Right.
Malcolm X, and Elijah Muhammad, are indeed a vital part of history
Right.
in the African diaspora, certainly in the African American diaspora.
Right.
But their significance transcends the African diaspora.
Yes.
You're talking about being deprived of American history.
Mm-hmm.
That's
right.
that they have
wasn't-
actually altered the learning process, the learning curve,
Right.
to just
Right.
alter American history so
Right.
that you do not have access to information regarding your own
Right.
history. So, I mean, just the gravity of what you're saying is
It's serious.
mind-boggling.
Yes, it's serious. I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah.
I didn't learn these things not only in the school system but in my community, in the church that I grew up in. We never were taught about these things, let alone the Middle Passage.
Wow.
Come on. So, I'm saying that, like I said, Frederick, going back to Frederick, and like I said, reading his book, just brought me to tears about how, the game that was being played on Frederick and many black people during American slavery was the fact that they intentionally denied us an education, let alone our history and our culture. So this is what's contributing to the violence. And I know we're going to get into it in a minute, but that's part of the reason why our communities are plagued by black violence, because they have no history, no culture. They don't know the history and culture. There's no connection to black people. Black people, to many black people who are in ghettos all across America, believe that black people are non-humans. They're N-words, and that's why we use the N-word every day, all day. All right, even in our rap songs now.
I don't even know how you could teach American history
Without,
and
right.
omit the very foundation that America was built on.
Right.
It has to be premeditated. It's not something that can be done
It's
accidentally.
Yes, it's systematic.
You can't accidentally omit Frederick Douglass.
Right. No doubt. It's institutionalized racism. That's what's taken place. It took place when I was in school, and it's taking place now.
Wow. I have to rethink every position I had. Every single position I had.
And that's just one level. We're not just talking about our hoods all across America. We're not just talking about the black community. Black homes where, unfortunately, our own people aren't learning anything about our own history, or teaching our children about black history. It's a mess both ways, internally and externally.
You also said that, and I kind of differ in your final assessment, that you were not ready, that you were not prepared academically. But listening to you speak and having read your bio,
wow.
There is no way that you could go from a D student to an A+ student if you did not have an abundance of ability the whole time. So the only thing that was lacking was the belief in your own ability. And now you tell me that not believing in your own ability was related to factors that I did not even know existed. I mean, it never occurred to me that anyone in America could go through the grammar school system and the high school system, you know, and know about this theoretical thing called slavery, you know, but have no foundation of any of the principal players and what their contributing roles were.
Not one. Just
that
amazing.
is extraordinary.
I mean, I think that's why I'm a history teacher now.
Well, you should be a history teacher. You know, you should.
But all seriousness, this is what's going on. I mean, again, it happened when I was growing up, and it's happening right now, 2013. These kids are coming out of schools, whether they charter schools, public schools, even some private schools, not knowing anything about their history, their culture, or about slavery, which many activists, including myself, call really the Black Holocaust. We don't learn anything about this stuff unless you get a good history teacher that can tweak that curriculum to include the history and culture of Black people or African people. It's just not going to happen.
Baba Zayid, we're not even, aside from the fact that we are not being taught about ourselves, apparently we are not even taught to believe in ourselves and respect our own abilities, which is also extraordinary because, you know, even if you know nothing about your history, you know, you should have some belief in your children and their ability to succeed, but apparently on some sort of generational level, we have been taught that we are as worthless as our oppressors tell us we are. You know, how did this...
It's a lot to it. First, let me give him a shout out on some other levels. He may not be aware of it or not, but he is creating a personal legacy that is very important to the school that he teaches in the community that he's in. There was a teaching legend, history teaching legend at Weequahic High School where he teaches named Sanford Williams. This young man is standing squarely on that elder's shoulders and is actually doing more than even Sanford did because he's out in the community engaging our kids in the streets. For a few minutes he was also the local chairman of the Newark chapter of the New Black Panther Party and did a fine job. And it was some of the soldiers in the party that had been anchoring this coalition that's got him driving in the lane of peace in the streets that he's been riding and you know at full speed ahead that we're so proud of. So I just wanted to put that he deserves that plug.
Humble brothers.
But back to your point. Being children of the '60s, when I was born in '61, and being Barack a week apart. In addition to COINTELPRO decapitating what we were doing in the '60s, part of the decapitation was the systematic effort to make sure that a generation like that generation doesn't rise again. So there have been waves after waves of things to create these conditions that he's referring to that have gradually brought down that pride and that confidence that was so fundamentally characteristic of the '60s that we no longer see. Towards the end of the '60s, we got crushed with a huge heroin wave. Right? In the mid-'80s.
Deliberately crushed.
Yes, in the mid-'80s.
For the specific reason that you just alluded to.
Absolutely.
It wasn't like accidentally crushed.
And in the mid-'80s, we're looking at our generation that's supposed to be coming of age, the children of the '60s, supposed to be getting ready to do some things. And we're looking at our struggle that was taking place at the time in Southern Africa. And of course, Southern Africa, whether you're talking about the Congo or Namibia, Mozambique or South Africa, where our world has everything that the world needs, and that if we had true self-determination in Africa and in places like Southern Africa like that, it would have changed the global African reality fundamentally in ways that we probably can't even fathom to this day. The other side understood that, and so we faced another wave of some very serious drugs coming into our community. Then we said, and I used to argue with Dr. Gunther because he said, oh, it'll never bring cocaine and whatnot into our community because we would get violent with them. No, they understood that if they worked on us long enough, hard enough, intense enough, consistently enough, it would turn, it would implode. And that's exactly what's happening on our streets today, with our kids today. And which makes it even more crazy in New Jersey, is that New Jersey, this is the world famous soprano state, and it is definitely that.
That's right.
Has on the books a law called the Amistad Law that says that Black and Latino history should be integrated into curriculum. And the curriculum has been developed. And this is not for just schools where we have Black and large Latino populations, but this is supposed to be in everybody's curriculum.
Right. That's right.
That's right.
But like so many so-called civil rights laws that have been on the books and not enforced, if you don't enforce them, if you don't make that happen, if you don't implement that on an institutional level, nothing changes. So here we are. We got almost at 100 murders in the city of Newark, just between, and we still got another month and a half to go.
Wow, Jesus Christ!
And that's not right, exactly.
That's just
and I
this
can
year.
Chime in, Brother Zayid.
Yeah.
If I can chime in.
Oh.
No, I mean, because Baba Zayid hit it right on about conditions, and every time this probably one of the first, if not the first, talk show where we're actually talking about the conditions that create black on black violence, or as Brother Mtume would say, black to black violence. You know, because when I listen to folk analyze the violence, the senseless violence taking place in the African American community, they don't talk about these conditions: miseducation. All right, they don't talk about the drugs. They don't talk about the poverty. They don't talk about the joblessness. They don't talk about COINTELPRO. All right, they don't talk about these the high incarceration rates of black men and now black women. Black women dominate the prisons. All right, in Jersey and in America, black women now. Who's raising the black family now? No one's talking about these conditions. Folks just say, well, black people who live next to black people generally kill black people. Yeah, that's sometimes, but you're not talking about the abnormal levels of black on black violence that take place from Jersey to California. In every hood you go to, every hood, Newark, New York City, East St. Louis, Gary, Indiana, Chicago, Illinois, Houston, Texas, Oakland, California, Los Angeles, California. You see these conditions, taking place, and you see high levels of black on black violence taking place in these communities. And nobody cares, nobody's taking any interest in it at all. Because why? Because it's black folk. Why? It goes back to that miseducation. We believe that we are, I hate to say it, I'm not going to say it on the way, I'm going to say we believe we the N-word. And Malcolm said the N-word and Negro and all that stuff comes from the Latin word necro, which means dead.
That's right.
So every day in the community, in the school, in hip-hop, the most powerful form of music in human history, every day you hear the N-word. N-word. You start to believe that you're the N-word, that's what it is. So I can take a black life, and eat pancakes tomorrow. And that's exactly what's happening right here in America. I'm not talking about over in Africa or the Caribbean, or which is taking place. Well, it's happening now in those countries. But we're talking about right here in the States, where we have the richest country in the world, where resources are plentiful, and we can't solve this issue of black on black violence in America. It's crazy.
Let me interject for like a second, and then I'll kick it over to you. And I'm glad you used the word miseducation, because it is not that we are not educated, but we are deliberately miseducated.
That's right.
There are some viruses that are spread through human contact, and some of them are lethal. Some of them are airborne, and violence has become an airborne virus.
No doubt.
And we are taking on the conditions of the infected, of our oppressors.
Right.
And they are infected with this condition.
Right.
And there is one common denominator in our communities, and in Africa, and in the Caribbean, and all places where people in the diaspora of Africa exist.
That's right.
We have taken on the conditions of our oppressors.
That's true.
And we have become more and more violent. And not only do we take on the conditions, we use that condition as a justification for what we do. Well, the white man does this, and the white man does that. If you look in the Congo, if you look in Nigeria, any place you look, it is always the same thing. First of all, all the richest countries in the world, mineral-rich countries in the world, have the poorest people in the world. There's no way the Congo can have the poorest people in the world. It's impossible. However, they're all fighting with the same weapons over the same thing. It's about the same money that goes to the person oppressing them in the first place. They don't even benefit from the violence.
That's true. And the violence.
And we are doing the same thing here. We are taking on the virus, the sickness that has become global. In Oakland, California, they had a thing in the news where the police beat down a brother who was visibly a Down syndrome baby, talking about his colostomy bag was a threat to them. They thought it was a threat. They beat down basically a child with a puppy because they said, you know, he gave him a bad look or something. I mean, and this was legitimate justification for what we're doing. The President of the United States with African roots in him is droning babies all over the African diaspora. You know, because there ain't no drones in Czechoslovakia. You know,
because we self-humans to not just
we have taken on that belief
not just
to
white
ourselves.
Folk, just white. It's us. We've taken on the oppressors. No doubt. Sickness.
It's called low-intensity warfare. So they didn't just use COINTELPRO to take us off point here, but at the same time there was the anti-colonial struggles coming to fruition with progressive governments, Pan-Africanism, socialism, all those democracy, all those things that were repressed through the previous colonial order. So to prevent this new rise of independent mid-level states, they set off this thing called low-intensity warfare, where they actually pay mercenaries, make them freedom fighters that undermine legitimate governments, and you can start from Lumumba on down, and the thing underneath all of that that keeps all of that in place is not just the repressive machinery of the state, but the hate driven, the self-hate driven, violent cycles of violence that you're referring to. And what we're seeing here is the bringing of that which was done there here to keep this generation and deal with us, the last couple generations from rising, just as they wanted to prevent the rise of that kind of progressive order on our own land, so we could have control of those resources, and those poor people wouldn't be poor anymore. We wouldn't be poor as the people in the world. The people with the most to offer the world and the best and most important natural resources are at the same time the poorest in the world. It's obscene, but it is also by design.
It's by design.
In the Black Panther Party, we were taught to always see the big picture. And the struggle, you know, here is the need for the creation of the kind of consciousness movement that undoes this lack of consciousness that's creating this malaise of violence that we're talking about.
And the powers that be are working hard to make sure that doesn't happen, Brother Nash. I mean, you know, I'm going back to my hood. Growing up, the original Black Panther Party chapter is nowhere to be found, right? The Nation of Islam, and I think at that time is, you know, on the scene. Now I got on the scene. Right, it's the 80s. Right, we're talking the 70s and 80s. So I'm just saying, real talk. I'm saying the Panthers, the original Black Panther Party, gone. Right, Nation of Islam has been decimated. Oh, actually, it fell apart in '75, and then Minister Farrakhan, you know, is picking it back up to try to reestablish the Nation of Islam. Right. Black power is nowhere to be seen growing up. When I'm talking I'm growing up in my community, nothing to be seen. So all these young brothers and sisters who, let's say in the 60s and 70s, would have joined maybe the Black Power movement or organization during the Black Power movement, the Panthers or us or you know, the Nation of Islam or even the Civil Rights Movement, they're just in the streets. And in the streets, like I said, there's no jobs, there's poverty, there's drugs. We begin to implode on each other. We begin to kill each other on a mass level, all right? On a mass level. And this is not something, 2013, what you're seeing in the streets of America today has started back in the 70s, in the mid-70s, you know, all the way up until this present time. Black bodies dropping in the streets and nobody caring. Nobody. Nobody now. You see what I'm saying? You know?
No, I don't know if they don't care. I think they care very much. I think that's why you have black bodies dropping.
Right.
I think if they didn't care, you probably wouldn't have as many black bodies dropping. You know, but I don't think this is coincidental or accidental. I think
it's all intentional.
It's intentional. You know, before you say a plan ain't working, you got to know what the plan is. You know, and I think they work very, very hard to make sure that
even Brother Nash in the late '80s and early '90s, when hip hop became very, very revolutionary, very political. What happened? They worked hard to remove that kind of consciousness in hip hop out of hip hop, replacing it with gangster rap. I remember the date, 1992. The Chronic drops Dr. Dre's album, right? Gets heavy rotations on MTV, right? But Brand Nubian's album, I forgot Brand Nubian. Oh man, I forgot Brand Nubian's first album. One of the songs they had was "Wake Up" on the album, and "Wake Up" was banned from MTV because they had a white guy, right? Well, it was like a person, like a caricature. It had a guy in white, and it had like horns sticking out, and he was dancing in the video, and that got banned. But Dr. Dre's album got heavy rotated on MTV, all right, and that kicked off this whole wave of gangster rap.
What happened in that? But see, there's a political backdrop. The political backdrop in '92 is the LA Rebellion.
That's right. That's right.
It's the LA Rebellion.
And the ceasefire agreement between the
in spite of what was happening in the streets.
Right.
And those efforts to create that peace in the streets that kept that violence down for a moment.
The Gang Truce took place.
You see what he's talking about, and then you see a new wave of you-know-what coming into the community. The drugs.
Right. Right.
We are, as is always the case, I really get like hung up in my guests because I have some extraordinary guests, and sometimes I don't pay attention to the teleprompter and they have to come out and tell me, take a call, you idiot. So we have a caller on the line. When they put that call through, I'm going to give the caller an opportunity to speak to our guests, and perhaps they can give you some answers. Caller, if you're there, just chime in. All right, while we're waiting on the caller, it's interesting what you said, because it goes back to what I was saying, that they do care, that this is deliberate. Because if you look at the period you were talking about, you have a period of violent political unrest. Hi, caller, if you're there, just chime in. We hear you.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Hotep.
Hello, this is Sally. I don't know if I'm on the air. I don't hear you,
Yes, you're on the air. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Well,
I don't know if she can hear me.
I don't know if you hear me, but I don't hear you except in the distance.
Oh, well, we hear you.
Hotep, sis.
You have a question?
Perhaps there's another line I could call from.
Okay, call back on another line.
I hear you, Nat.
Okay, what's your question?
Okay, well, you have two gentlemen with you currently. Are they both or either of them running for office?
No, we had a gentleman here. We had a conflict of interest, and Michael Graves of the Freedom Party is running for mayor. But we couldn't get him on. But I just want everyone to know that he was here. He was prepared to go, but I have these two dynamic brothers here, and we're talking about the issue of violence in the street. But at some time, we're going to talk to Michael in depth.
May I make a statement in terms of you were kind enough to have me on your program before because I'm trying to ban vaccines, but something has happened of the utmost concern that I want people to call the campaign offices of the two mayoral candidates now to ask a question. I want you to call de Blasio and Lota and any other candidate who's running for mayor and say, where do you stand on forced vaccination?
All right. Call de Blasio, call de Blasio and Lota and ask where they stand on forced vaccinations. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time on that because that's an issue we'll cover at some other time. But I'm going to make the statement that you want made. Hi, caller. You're on the air.
Nat, once again, Brother Man, award-winning show. Hotep to the rest of the panel.
Hotep, my brother.
You know, like when the good brother was talking about basically gaining consciousness through Malcolm X, you know, I was actually sitting down and I was speeding up their vibe because I came into Malcolm X by a sister who, like, basically just opened my eyes to what the powers that be were doing. And lo and behold, I'm in a prison cell, and all of a sudden his book is sitting on the bed. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and
sir.
it's like, wow, you know, and the sister took me out to First World Alliance up on Sugar Hill and whatnot.
Wow.
And I met some real heavy brothers and whatnot. And since then and whatnot, you know, I've basically just been resuscitated, so to speak, and whatnot.
That's what's up.
And, you know, it's good to hear, you know, other brothers and whatnot, you know, at least admit that at one point in time they were blind, and this is what opened their eyes and whatnot. You know, and I was just curious, though, what makes our violence any different from any other community violence?
Good.
Let me do two things, brother. First, what's your name, brother?
Slim.
Slim, I just wanted to just shout. I want to talk to you about name. I appreciate what you said, and you talking to somebody who I found Malcolm in a drug transaction, and it saved my life. And I'm gonna tell you, New York, I want you to know that Sunday is the 50th anniversary of Malcolm's greatest speech, the message to the grassroots, and we're gonna be looking at that real hard and strong right at Simotep in Queens at 3 p.m. I had to
Big
get
shout
that
out to
plug in
Dr.
because
McIntyre.
Malcolm is just so important to all of our consciousness. But what's different is that we're treated different. We're not treated with the same degree of humanity. It's simple. I'll make it just black and white simple. If I'm on the streets and thugging and banging and I pop this brother just because I'm putting in work, and I cop to it and get caught, I might do 10 years and come out and do something else. They'd be comfortable with that because it was a black life. But if I pop Mary Sue McElhenney from the suburbs, and this dangerous criminal, this would be demonized in the press. We should be talking about the death penalty first. There should be no pleas, nothing, no life imprisonment without parole, maybe. But there's no way a person like this should ever roam the streets again. You know, because the premium of life is different for other folks than it is for our folks. And our folks on the streets understand that too. They know who they're killing and who they're not killing. They're not, and we're not telling them to do that. I won't get this twisted. But there's a fundamental difference in the value of life in terms of how the system treats this violence. And that's what we're talking about.
Right.
No doubt.
We have another couple of calls. I'm going to take another call.
Yes.
Hi, caller. You're on the air.
All right. Yes. How you doing?
How you doing, brother?
Hotep.
This is Brother Hannibal, and I would just like to reflect on what y'all have said about not seeing the Muslims and the Black Panthers as it once were. Well, you know, a lot of us have evolved and much older, but still, each one teach one. That was a criteria which is really needed at this time. The job is not done. There used to be a general order that says, when will you quit my post? You say you quit your post in a properly manner. And your post is forever. You know what I mean? In other words, when you come into the light, you come into as a repository, and the light comes through you, because God's light shines through people. Therefore, our job is to deliver a message. Now, you find some young people in your family and others in the street that may listen. There's some in the family won't listen. So you go, like they said in the book of the scripture, Bible, don't cast your pearls to swine, lest they trample upon it. So you find those who will listen. You'd be surprised. I was telling my grandson today. I said, you know, when you had told such and such that you didn't eat pork because the family, she was shocked. And I was shocked because everybody in the house I was teaching, but I thought you wasn't paying attention. You was at least one was paying more attention. So don't think that all that great work that has been done has been not here. It's here. It's in areas that you and I maybe cannot perceive. There are people that's doing things in such areas, just like y'all doing. There are other people doing things to build us the consciousness of a people once again. But the criteria for what we stand for is maybe not the same way we are headed. In other words, what I'm trying to get to the bottom line is that we have to go back and teach the youth respect for one another. Let me just conclude. Respect for one another. Love one another. That Southern trait before even the South got disinstated on things that they're doing now. But that love and respect for Terry Lou down the road carries the stats back, even though Today we don't eat it, collard greens and whatnot, but we looked out for one another. We got up north and got a little over lunch money. We went crazy.
All right, brother. We're kind of running out of time,
So
and we have another call. I want to allow my guests to piggyback on what you said. Do you meet with I'm sure you meet with resistance in the stuff that you do.
No doubt. No doubt.
How do you?
Let me just say this. I hear the elder. You know, for real. She's on point about. Well, he's on point about the about we got to each one, teach one, love, no doubt, and that's missing, unfortunately. That's missing. But yes, unfortunately, we have resistance because, like you said, it's all intentional. You're talking about the destruction of, you're talking about the decimation or genocide of black people. You know, blacks, many Latino
the decimation of the ways that black people have traditionally communicated with each other.
Let me say this.
There is no black radio that's legitimately black. There's a lot of communication avenues that don't exist. So even those people who are sincere in what they do, a lot of times don't have avenues to put out a clarion call.
There's several things I just need to get quickly. I just want to give a big shout out to Brother Raz Baraka. He is the founder of the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition. All right, our co-founders, Brother DeLacy Davis of BCAP, Black Cops Against Police Brutality, and Brother Dave Muhammad, who is a member of the Nation of Islam. And of course, we always give a big shout out to the new Black Panther Party for playing such a big role in this movement that we've created in Newark, New Jersey, called the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition. We've been in these streets for over 200 weeks. We use civil disobedience, studying, you know, our civil rights brothers and sisters, man. Seeing what they did in terms of using civil disobedience to highlight an issue or to get policy change that would benefit the community. So this is why we went into those streets. We went into those intersections. We didn't just do, you know, prayer vigils. We didn't just hold signs somewhere in a park somewhere. We went directly in the middle of the intersections, put our bodies, shut it down, putting our bodies in front of buses. I'm talking about New Jersey Transit. We talking about cars. We talking about even in certain areas because we went to mainstream Newark. But we also went in some of the most drug-infested neighborhoods and shut down drug activity. This is very dangerous work the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition has been doing. For 4 years it's been in existence. Very dangerous work. And many of our
I'll be right members, with you, caller. I see we got a couple of calls.
But many of our members were locked up. Well, not many of them. 6 of them were locked up, you know, organizing against the violence.
Yeah, which is my point. You've been doing this for a minute. You've been doing this forever.
No doubt.
A few minutes.
Right.
If like you was doing something frivolous or ridiculous, if you were selling shirts with Confederate flags, we'd all know about it all over the, you know, and that's what I mean by the avenues that we had to communicate, even with each other, no longer exist.
Big shout out to you, Brother Nash. Big shout out to you, brother.
You know,
because you represented Trump. You got call
and we're running low on time, so try to make the call brief because I want to make sure that these brothers have a chance to respond to your call, and I want to know what's going on with them coming up. Caller, if you're there, just chime in.
I'm calling from Harlem.
Hey, caller, how you doing?
Uptown, Hotep.
In response to some of the things, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm looking at the situation and the plight of black America, and to me, we're unconscious. I mean, we will still...
Unconscious? What did you say, brother? I'm sorry.
We're unconscious.
All right, got you.
As a nation,
got
as
you.
individuals.
Got you.
But I'm looking at the fact that we withstood 2 chemical warfare attacks, which was heroin and crack. That was chemical warfare.
No doubt.
Then I look at our nation that we're in now. All these churches in our community, we have the highest crime rate. All these black leaders in Jestian, Farrakhan, and Sharpton, and we still, 50 years later, we're fighting police brutality, we're fighting racism, etc. I ask you as the panel, what's the answer? Because I don't see none in the near future.
I got you, brother. I just want to quickly say this. I'm glad you raised that issue. Unfortunately, and this is what Baba Zayid has always taught me, we set trip, brother. We are set tripping. The leadership, the black leadership in this country are set tripping. There's no unity. There's no, and Amir Baraka, oh brother, Mahmoud Baraka, I gotta call that elder's name because he talked about how unfortunately we're not able to sit down, come up with 10 issues that are affecting the black community, narrow it down to 5, and we all agree that we're going to work around these 5 issues. Unity without uniformity. We can't do that. Why? Because we want the spotlight, brother. You know, I want to be known as the black leader. So, you know, I don't want nobody else to get to shine. I don't want Brother Baba Zayid to get to shine, or Brother Raz to get to shine, or Sister Ciasia, or K. Boog, or, you know, or Brother Bashir Akinyele to get to shine, because they may get resource. That they may become a, not just resource. They become a voice, another voice in the black community. So their resources might be diverted from my program to you. And then it might even expose my contradictions, that I'm not really serious and committed to the liberation of black people. You see what I'm saying? So this is what is going on, brother. You know. This is what's going on. Listen, I wrote a letter. When Joe Flagg, a community activist, a deli owner, right, a brother who was doing positive, productive work in our community, mentored the community, employed brothers coming home from prison to help clean up Newark. When he was murdered, brother, I told everybody, black radio, white, every progressive, everybody, nobody mentioned this brother's murder. All right? No one mentioned this brother's murder. He was killed like a dog in the street, and nobody cared. Why? Because black life don't mean nothing in America. And on top of that, all the isms and schisms and set tripping that's going on with our black leadership. That's why we can't solve these problems. And on top of that, you're talking about poverty and joblessness, this election day, all right? We are not demanding nothing from these politicians. Man.
Hey, brother.
We're talking about in our community.
In our community.
We're not just talking about
right.
the Christies and
right.
the other kind, but we're talking about these people that look like us
right.
from our community.
You got Shaquille O'Neal endorsing Christie.
Revolutionary leadership was
Zayid.
replaced with commercial leadership. Commercial leadership that's about, you know, marketing products, getting paid, and being loyal to the system that needs to be changed. And that's what we're looking at. That's why we don't see these so-called leaders that are put in front of us not addressing these issues, because that's not what they're there for. They're there to control us and to represent a loyal line that gives some kind of camouflage appearance of everything is even though they're not perfect, we're with you. And
right.
We were trying to get free.
Let's take this call, and then we're gonna get kind of raw in the last 3 minutes.
Voice is light of a man. But, hello,
Hotep.
You're there.
Hotep, brother.
We got you.
all right. The thing I wanted to address is, yes, with the leadership will come from the grassroots. Brother Hannibal is my name. This is the grassroots, brother. Okay. We know all this. We are disenfranchised and all like that. But listen, if you're starting from the grassroots, like everybody, I'm Malcolm X, that picture. Everyone reiterated that. And everybody say, like a brother came up to me and says, what's going to happen now? That the imam has passed away. I said, well, I'm W.D. Muhammad. See, the spirit lives on in you. That brother that got killed, Newark, you became him, and all the rest of them became him. We do not die. The spirit don't die. You kill the flesh. If we start from that, we will come together. No big eyes and little you should be. We got to come together. Well, don't worry about what's at the top. Everything always came from the bottom. Remember that. And we partay on that, we will go where we have to go and get what we got to get as a people. But we must start teaching. Teach where you at. Everyone in there, work ye in your places is what must be done.
All right, brother.
In your place, then we'll come together.
We have one more call. I want to get this.
I wanted to mention to you, that's my husband. He's not a woman. He's Brother Hannibal.
Oh, yeah, that was just a mistake. We know that, sister. No disrespect. No disrespect. No disrespect. None. That was not the issue at all. I think we have one more call. Let's take this call here, and then I want to wrap up the last few minutes that we have. Yeah, you're there.
I would just basically like to ask the panel, you know, like I believe words have power, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, semantics, you know, it's a hell of a drug, so to speak. And, you know, like, I don't know if this is the demarcation in the decline of black leadership, but whenever activists was introduced into the lexicon, do you think that has played a part in the castration of most so-called black leaders?
And I'm gonna let you speak on this. But coming from a personal point of view, I don't think we have any shortage of black leaders. I think we have a shortage of airwaves. I think that the people that you see are corporate Negroes, and they are then they have to follow a corporate agenda. I don't even think it has to do with making money, because I think that if we truly had the medium, we could be competitive with anybody and still be true to our mission. I think that we have the leaders, we have the message. What we don't have is the medium. We don't have the bullhorns that they have. They have millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, and they have the airwaves locked up in corporate ways. But I don't think we lack leaders. We have a whole lot of leaders. We just don't have a whole lot of podiums for them. Let's take this last call, and then I'm going to let these brothers take us out of here.
No doubt.
Caller, if you're there, try to make it real brief, because we're running out of time. Caller, are you there? All right, well, all right, forget it. No more calls. I'm going to let you brothers take us out of here. I want to know what's coming up in the immediate future, what plans you have, and
cool.
You've taken on an seemingly insurmountable problem, and as always, you don't care nothing about the size of the problem. You're just a nut. But tell us what's happening, and yeah, I'm sitting here with two leaders, two extraordinary leaders.
Of course, is the rally for tomorrow is at Aldine and Chancellor Avenue, where this incident took place.
At 5 p.m.
At 5 p.m., we're going to shut that down. These young folks ain't playing. They're going to shut that street down and honor this brother, and to make everybody uncomfortable about
what's his name again?
Joe Flagg.
Joe Flagg.
Right.
Good brother, right? Make everybody, and that's that particular. This is
now,
to
what
say
was the
something
circumstances?
He had a business. He had a deli.
He had a
right in the neighborhood.
And
he also ran a community organization that cleaned up Newark, called Flag World, named after his surname, Flagg. And he was Sunday, the day that we were doing this massive anti-violence rally called the Funeral to Bury the Violence.
That's right. That's when he got hit.
He got shot. He was opening. He was in his restaurant, his little deli, and somebody walked in. Teenagers actually walked in and robbed him and shot and killed him. That's what happened. And so the victims on both sides. You got teenagers who are going to eventually end up in prison for a number of years, and then you got Joe Flagg murdered in the streets of Newark. All right, so we're going to honor that brother. We're going to honor his legacy this Wednesday. Come on out strong. We're going to shut down Chancellor Avenue and Aldine Street at 5 p.m. We could be reached, Newark Anti-Violence Coalition could be reached at 908 area code 605 NAVC, or hit us up on Facebook. We on Facebook strong. We got nearly 12,000 followers on Facebook, all right, and that's Newark Anti-Violence Coalition. Also want to give
I'm sure if you just go to your search engine and type in the letters NAVC, you will see something that says Newark Anti-Violence Coalition. You click that one on, and you'll get the whole mother load. So if you can't remember all the call letters and all that stuff, go to your search engine. If you put down Newark Anti-Violence or Newark Anti, the rest of the words will come in for you, and you'll be able to.
Brother Nas, I want to give a shout out to you. It's alternative media that's literally in the trenches with us, broadcasting what's going on in Black and Latino and poor communities in America, no doubt. I also want to give a big shout out to Brother Chuck D. On my way here, he hit me up with a text. He said, on my radio show, I read your letter, because I pleaded with the world, not just with black folks, with the world, to help our cause, man, to end the violence, the senseless killing of black and brown people in our community. And it was Chuck D who read off his letter on the show. I want to give a big shout out again to Brother Chuck D, a Public Enemy #1. Public Enemy, legendary.
Legendary. You threw that in. That was a Freudian slip.
No doubt.
That's right.
Big shout out to him. And also big shout out to Occupy Wall Street. The leadership came out strong last on October 7th. They came out strong. They united in solidarity with the organizers of the movement to bury the violence in Newark, called the Funeral. They came out strong, and they had the media, and they broadcast, what was going on in Newark. Unfortunately, like you said, black media and black talk shows did not.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
didn't
we
care-
got
they didn't-
leaders.
they
We
didn't
just
care to- they
ain't,
didn't care to broadcast what was going
we
on.
don't have
Right.
anyone who,
Right.
you know, including the black church. But
Right.
that's another thing
That's
we'll
a whole
talk about.
nother issue.
Brother Zay, we got about 2 minutes left in this. Wrap this up, put a bow on it. Make sure you reiterate what you got coming up, and give us some closing thoughts.
Well, in addition to what Bashir just laid out, I wanted also just the point that you made is very important, because the time period that we were talking about, with all these things going on, there was this commercial buying up of black radio stations, and that's how we lost those drums.
Right.
You know, and then this. I can't say how much we all should miss Gil Noble.
Oh,
Right,
I
right.
shade to
He was the
Right.
last
Right.
of a
Right.
very important
Right.
breed, particular to his time. He was the last that
And when
did
he
what
died,
did.
they shut down
That's
the
right.
medium.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And here now is hearing what? You know,
Right,
you know, we're
right,
still
right.
trying to figure out what that is. But your point is well taken. The golden age of hip-hop belongs to Malcolm X. The Message to the Grassroots was the most sampled spoken word item that was used to light up the minds of that time. We honor that this coming Sunday, 3 o'clock at Simotep, with some of the strongest Malcolm scholars that are out here. We invite folks to come deal with that right here in New York. In New York, I want to shout out Fathers in the Hood. There's a group called Faith, a group of black men who lost their children in the street.
Right.
Who we've been in touch with and who are doing things of their own in this town, in spite of the lack of support that they're getting from the leadership.
Big shout out to Erica Ford. Big shout out to
Ford,
Erica.
yes, one of my little sister comrades from the December 12th movement, who took up that particular issue for our progressive forces here in town. So folks are doing work. That one of those callers was
Right.
absolutely correct.
Right.
We do acknowledge that, and that's why we stay on our posts and we continue to sound the drum. So we're still on our posts. We got work to do. We ain't free.
Right.
And once we understand that, we know that's what the nature of our mission is.
Support these brothers. Support your community. Like I said, we have no shortage of leadership. And not only do we know that, but they know that all too well. That's why they shut down the medium, because we have the leaders there. And I also want you to pay special attention, because we all have gone through the same thing with Malcolm, learn from Malcolm and learn who we were from the Nation of Islam, from Malcolm, from all those people they tell you should hate now. You have a brother who didn't believe in himself, and this brother was a dyed-in-the-wool genius. And you got genius out there that just don't know it.
That's right.
We will see you next week. I want to thank you so much for tuning in and supporting 30 frames a second and everything that we do. And we are out of here. Peace. See you next week.
Hotel.
The whirlwind.
Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
Oh, brother.
Thank you.